So I would like to introduce the three panelists. So we have Kevin from Gold Sky. Where are you? All right. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. Okay, please come here. So we also have Bruno from Magna. Where are you, Bruno? Morning. And last but not least, Dinesh from Flare. Okay, so please go and take it away.
Thank you. So there is a mic for you. Probably, like this. Okay, so hi everyone. Very excited to be here for this panel. Very happy to be with you guys. So I think we can just do like a quick intro about what we're doing. So I'm working at Consensus as developer relation. So with my team, Linear, like a lot of product, but so like it's better now. So I'm very happy to be with you for this panel about like more users, more chain. I mean, we'll see about like the more users. I'm not very sure like if we have more users now, but we'll talk about that. So please you can start that, Dinesh, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Dinesh. I'm the technical product lead at Flare. So Flare is the L1 blockchain for data. And we have enshrined oracles, which is a time series oracle and a state oracle. This time series oracle is basically for price feeds, and the state oracle is getting data from primarily non-smart contract chains. So Flare's primary mission is to bring value and unlock the potential of non-smart contract tokens. That includes things like Bitcoin and XRP.
My name is Bruno. I'm the co-founder CEO of Magna. I don't think Mike's going to reach you, by the way. There we go.
So you have to take a switch to the channel, then you have that one is in front.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So we need to switch. Okay. Let's switch.
Oh, we got to switch over.
Yeah.
Testing. Okay.
Perfect.
Bruno, co-founder CEO of Magna, token management distribution company, most known for our token vesting product, for employee vesting, investor unlocks. We also do a lot of airdrops and claim portals. We've worked with teams like Optimism, Aptos, doing all their team vesting. We helped the Trump token lock up all their tokens, which was exciting, and got us to about 20 billion in TVL, and increasingly solving a lot of other problems for teams, including staking, custody, and pre-sales and node sales. So really just anything related to managing and distributing tokens.
All right, good morning. My name is Kevin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Gold Sky. We make it really easy for builders to basically get data to go build their apps. Like real-time, low latency, sub-second. Our data usually comes through faster than it shows up on block explorers. We do a lot of partnerships to make that happen. Today we power over 500 startups, businesses, builders. Several of you in the audience have probably heard of us or used us. We've been powering Polymarket for over 2 years now. POAP, Arweave, Story, Ripple, probably everyone in some capacity or other. It's been a pretty fun ride. We're excited about kind of like the next wave of how data will kind of evolve with like pre-confirmations and the whole like interop, which I'm sure we'll get into pretty shortly.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So I was about to start with a very general question, but actually I think like because we spoke a little bit before, I think I can go like in a spicy question already. So we have some users. So we did have on board a lot of users like Solana. We saw like with the meme coin and everything. So we do have a lot more users. But actually question is more we're creating chains. So in the past few years, I think you also maybe a lot of airdrop. I think back then you saw that very well. A lot of new chain, new TGE, like L1, L2, L3, L4 app chain, roll-up chain, everything. And the thing is in terms of users' perspective, when you speak with the users, usually you don't really care about the chain, right? So the thing is my question is how do you think we can make the users caring about the chain, or do you think users will ever care about the chain they use? And it's a hard question, I'm just
Yeah, that's a good question. I think users will care about the chain, but maybe not directly. They won't think oh, I'm using this chain because it's called X and I've heard it's really great. It's more they'll use a lot of apps on that chain. All their experiences are really good. Or all their experiences when it comes to just very interactive, things generally work, will also be a good experience. So I had a pretty funny conversation yesterday with someone who's building an AMM for the LP side. And he was saying that building in general is just kind of tough because there's so many failure points that he has to kind of deal with. So for example, it's does the, because his his users kind of interact with the wallet to then basically go and LPN. So it's like, okay, well, what if like the wallet fails? What if the wallet's RPC fails? What if like the chain underlying the RPC fails? What if my front end is failing? So I guess the chains that at least solve the problem of like like the data works, things come on time, just generally good experiences in apps. I think those are the chains that will win, and those are the chains that users will remember.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much more to add except that I think the biggest concept I think about is like the friction involved in doing what you want to do as a user. And so if you're trying to use a dApp and the RPC is broken, you got to download this other wallet, like making any app take off is like a magic trick, right? It's like it's a secret, it's lightning in a bottle, and every little piece of friction kind of increases exponentially the odds of a user dropping off or losing interest or going somewhere else or just not doing anything at all. And so I think the chains that are succeeding are going to be the ones that reduce friction for users to do lots of different things on their chain because they get tokens. They're like, well, what can I do with these tokens? What dApps can I use? Like that composability, those ecosystem things. That's why Solana's doing well. There's a lot to do on Solana. It largely just works. Used to not, but now it largely just works. So yeah, I think it's about friction, composability, and then I think the things that annoy a lot of people at ETH Denver is like no one cares about technical differentiation. People care, and you see all these people like crashing out on Twitter over chains that are taking off, and it's like mostly a meme and community and vibes. Meanwhile, somebody be like, we have like the best tech and we have the best researchers. Like no one gives a fuck. No one cares about tech, and it's not even a crypto thing. I come from Web 2. No one cares about tech differentiation. All that cares about is like how do you get someone excited? How do you get them using your product? What are the viral loops? The key to beer type stuff that's going to keep people coming back. And very rarely is it ever because of this one technical thing.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think of it in a slightly different perspective. Like we've seen a lot of focus on chain abstraction, right? The idea that you can, abstract away underlying complexity from like different chains. I think what's missing from that sort of question is risk abstraction. You can abstract away user experiences. You can abstract away, how you get the data from a chain. You can't abstract away the risk of owning assets on different chains. Like to just take a very simple example, if you compare Ethereum and an unnamed chain which has 300 block reorgs, right? There's a very different risk metric between the two of them. And if you're telling a user at the end that, hey, your assets on those two chains are basically fungible, you're effectively lying to the user. So my take personally is that we're not at a stage where we can actually abstract any of this away. At least we can't do it in a safe way. If we wanted to like cowboy the whole thing, sure, go ahead. But there's no sort of safe way to actually perform chain abstraction.
Ironically, people are putting more effort in abstracting over chains and making the chains better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then you have those consideration about like with what we saw with like polygons. Aave actually right now is like deciding to like stepping down out of Polygon because Polygon just decide to reuse like the bridge asset to do like something else, whatever. So I mean, so you have all those considerations, and usually like there is a lot of questions around this, which is like what you want to push, like all users agrees to everything, and like every chain are taking like different direction, and so you don't really know, But actually for that, like in terms of friction, like what it causes for users is like just users are super lost. Like if you think about like users and like chain and like where I put my money and everything, I mean you can check like the API on DeFi platform, but then like it's like they don't even know like difference between like ZK or ZK rollup and like an optimistic rollup. Like if you want to educate like if I want to educate my dad about that, like there is no way. I mean it took my dad maybe like 5 years or 10 years to understand Bitcoin, right? So like if I want to like you can't teach people like this. So the question is like how we can like reduce like friction, like what we can do as product, as chain, as like token manager and everything, how we can reduce the friction for people, and like what's your vision on that? So
I mean I think we get the question a lot from people like what chain should I build on, what chain should I pick, and we just tell people like go where you got to look at it two ways. Either you are going to bring users to that chain or that chain is going to bring users to you, but it's rarely both. And so for most people, if they're getting something off the ground, you want to rely on existing communities, existing ecosystems, other partnerships to bring users to your dApp, and play on the kind of synergy with other things going on that chain. And there are dApps that are maybe bringing in Web 2 users, maybe they're bringing in gamers where the existing users don't matter as much. But yeah, that's usually our advice to people is like the hardest thing is usage and liquidity. Go where you think the chain you pick is going to help drive those things to your dApp.
Yeah, and like the question, like for you, like specifically, yeah, sorry, like
Oh.
it's like using like the token manager and usually like market maker and everything, or like really using like helping users, right? Because from what we saw, like with some market making problem, like recently, like they're mostly like extracting values, and you see like you have your DeFi ecosystems, those are shrinking, and you're like, oh, that's my market maker actually. So because as a company, when you do your TG, you choose like market maker, you choose people to like help you grow your industry, but they have like opposite interests. It's kind of like the way it works is like, you know, there is like those loans gave to the market maker, and so then they have a strike price. And so then they have like opposite interest to you. Like, I mean, they should help you, but sometimes like the interests are not really aligned.
Hey, market makers are mercenaries, right? Like, if your interests go against theirs, they will pick their interests. You know, I once heard a market maker say, yeah, we'll support the project until it starts, failing, and then we'll drop the tokens on the floor. And that was a direct quote. And I think we saw that with Kelsier Ventures. You know, we're going to max extract on this one. And I think that the tip we tell people, right, whether it's a chain or an infrastructure provider, like you have to be really careful who you trust and make sure that it's people that are long-term aligned, whether it's because they already have a ton of money or they have a good reputation to uphold, that they haven't fucked people in the past, and that, you know, they're going to do, you kind of know what job they're going to do, because at each of these steps, you could get screwed over by your RPC provider, you could get screwed over by your data provider, your chain could not give you any resources, right? Your L1, your foundation. And so it's saying that's the thing that I always tell founders is like every single partner you work with, you have to make sure they're aligned, they're, you know, invested figuratively, and that you do reference checks, because people get very lazy. It's like hiring, you know, you should reference check all of your vendors.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I mean, if you want to add something, yeah, maybe.
No, I'm good.
No, you're not. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, so very like it's true. Like you need to reference check people. After that, there is like, oh, you do that. Like, I mean, you have all this social reputation stuff. It's not like that easy, because sometimes you have like some blur a little bit when you're trying to do that. But yeah. So now like let's speak about like infra, like with the fragmentation. Like I think like one of the biggest topic we have is like cross-chain interoperability and everything, and also reducing the friction. And I do think like, for example, in terms of like indexing data, you can do that, because, you know, like you're indexing data. We have like the EVM standard, which is quite widely used in our industry, but now you have like Solana, which is a big player, so you can't really do without Solana. Then you have Bitcoin, and you also have all those companies like trying to build layer 2s on top of Bitcoin, like zkVM on Bitcoin, and those kind of thing. And so in terms of indexing data, is getting quite complex, I assume. So like, you can solve this problem, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, on the EVM side, we've been banging our head against this problem for so many years now. It's mostly solved. We can add a new chain in under a few hours. It'll take us a lot longer to backfill a chain, but we support over 200 chains now, so we've kind of figured out that side of it. You talked more about like not EVM compatible chains, like like Solana and others. Yeah, those are a lot harder. Solana is so much freaking data, and also some of these chains, they actually just go so fast that our infra was not designed to go that fast originally. So we had to rebuild some of our rails just to support that, right? There's also some stuff like, for example, we do subgraphs. Some of you have heard of that from the graph, and we run into cases on faster chains where basically the subgraphs just can't keep up, right, with the actual chain itself. So. It's for Solana specifically, it's been interesting because we've had to work around their whole like account-based architecture. It's very, very different from how we've done it. But eventually, you know, once the data does sync down, it does end up being close to the same model. It's just more about, again, kind of upgrading. How do I analogize it? It's kind of like you want like one street to go faster. But you can't just make one street faster, because you have other streets going into that street, or other streets coming out of that street. Like there's a story about how some guy had a house near like a freeway, but they didn't put down like the right slowdown, so he had like 13 cars just slam into his house over the course of 10 years. It's stuff like that, right? So we have to kind of upgrade all the rails across the board in order to support a lot of these things.
Yeah, and actually, like you think, like this, like do we need like more infra, because we're creating more and more and more infra. So it means like, for example, you might have like in like a year or like even maybe 6 months, like something like Solana, and you will have to do like again your entire infra. Like, do you think like maybe like it's like an endless stuff for a company, or like we should stop doing infra, or like more infra maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll ever stop doing more infra or more chains. Like it's just, in some ways, it's like if you think of Ethereum as like a country, right? And every single chain is like a state. Like states are good. When we have different states, each state can kind of specialize, and then you get really good benefits of, like interop is basically just like interstate commerce. Like I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he's Canadian, and he was like, man, I would love for Canada to join the U.S. And I was like, that's odd because you're Canadian. Like I feel like I should be saying that because I'm American. And he's like, no, because you guys have your interstate commerce and we don't have that. Like it's never been solved, right? So yeah, I think generally like interop is good. I think every chain, every ecosystem can kind of specialize in something different. And that way, like we kind of become richer as a whole as an ecosystem versus everyone trying to basically do everything at the same time, which is a lot of ways to work.
Yeah, very interesting. So, like in terms of chain, like Dinesh, maybe like you can have some take on that. Like in terms, like you make sure like you will be like future proof in terms of like interoperability and everything.
Yeah.
Because that's a big topic. I think like now, yeah, we're creating all this infra, but maybe like the next topic, like this next subject we will have to work about is like abstracting everything. We're struggling. We talked about it like to do it, but. I think it's still like the main thing we need to work on. Maybe at some point we'll have some merger. My personal take is like we'll have some merge at some point. You know, like it's like an internet in like the 90s, right? Basically, you have like you put a .com after on the name of your company and you can raise like a lot. And then at some point there's like just like a few players. They just like merge and like acquire everything to like merge it into like one unified chain. I don't think the way to do it is like doing like what Phantom did, which is like buying the company and like shutting down the API. I think that's another subject, right? But yeah, like how do you see that? Yeah, from Flare perspective, I think.
Yeah, from Flare's perspective, interoperability is like one of the key problems, and we've always kind of been focused on non-smart contract chains. So in our case, it's primarily Bitcoin and XRP. And kind of the main reason for that is the amount of value that is there on those chains. And without smart contracts, you're basically excluded from participating in a huge amount of DeFi. You're excluded from participating in any form of getting yield on your assets. And at least to us, like unlocking yield for Bitcoin, for XRP is something that we're very interested in. But it also has to be like done properly, right? There are many like easy ways when you're dealing with non-smart contract chains. There are shortcuts that you can take. What we have done at Flare is we have something called an enshrined oracle. So what that means is the oracle is part of the chain itself. So the validators who are validating blocks on Flare, they're also data providers for the oracle. They're also state providers for the oracle. And they're also running like Bitcoin nodes, XRP nodes, whatever others non-smart contract chains we're interested in, and that's how they're injecting state from there. And the protocol we use for that is called the Flare Data Connector, and it basically allows any application on Flare to prove that something happened on a different chain. So I can prove that some transaction took place on Bitcoin, which reduced the the balance in a particular account. Or the same thing on XRP. And what this sort of enshrined approach gives you is it gives you the same set of security across all the different protocols. So right now I don't have to go to like a third party to get my data feeds. I don't have to trust them separately. If I trust the chain, then I can trust the data on that chain itself.
Yeah, okay. But like, and for that specifically, like, is it hard or not to have providers? Because I know like for a lot of like this kind of architecture, like if you think about like one Infusion or like OSWAP protocol, like the DeFi platform, they're struggling a lot to have providers to provide like the EMEV calculation, like running those kind of nodes, because as soon as you have Wintermute there, no one's want to compete with Wintermute because they can't, right? Because just a balance sheet problem. But I do assume for chain is same thing. Like you can you're taking care of like you provide the program. It's like because it's a very important part of infra. It's like people don't really think about it. It's like we have all chain and everything, but then we need operators to run it on the ground. And the problem is like there is a huge competition for chains to make those providers and those operators running like wanted to run something on the chain, right? So yeah, how do you solve like this thing? I mean, I don't know if it's a concern, but maybe I assume usually it is, but yeah.
Yeah, so like for example, the load of a data provider on Flare is significantly higher, right? Because they're not just validating blocks, they're getting external data for the oracle, and they're getting state data from other chains as well. But I think what Flare has done sort of quite successfully is built up a very strong community. And we have a proof of stake system, so the community can basically delegate their stake to certain providers. And the stake distribution is actually very even. So like there's no single provider who controls more than like 3.3% of the stake. And the competition is pretty fierce among them, right? Because we have like commit reveal schemes and so on. So the competition is pretty fierce. So even though we have, generally increased the load on providers, they see that the net value that it brings to the chain and the increase in transactions, generation of transaction fees, more stake to them, more rewards that way. At least from our perspective, it's been pretty good. So they've been pretty supportive of that. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so yeah, it's very nice to see that because usually for a lot of companies struggling to have more than 10 providers and doing the thing. Yeah. So you spoke about the community side. Actually, it's interesting because we in this panel we speak about users, but also there is community members, and I think in Web3 right now, we very influenced. We have a lot of influence comes from what our community is saying, and sometimes it's not for the best. So when you think about a TGE stuff, if I'm tweeting something right now, Linnea will probably TGE at some point, and so there is all the users, all the community member, names are oh yeah, but when TGE, they don't even speak about if I'm posting something about this panel, you can check my tweet. Probably there is people there's when TGE under my tweet, right? Which doesn't add a lot of value, right? And so, how you can make your community this is a question I'm asked myself, so I have no answer to this question. How you can have a community who brings added value to you, because there is amazing community member bringing value, but or you can extract yourself from the noise of this, and with your marketing team, your PR team, developer relation team, or you can try to work this and make it added value for the company. So.
Oh, sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, the question is how you can improve your community and just make people users of your entire thing, bringing added value, just because we do care about what they say and everything. But
yeah, I mean, I sound like a broken record, but it's the foundations, the protocols, the tokens that do really well just start from a first principles perspective of why are people here? Why do they like being in the Discord? Do they like being around each other? Do they like the tech? Do they like the products? And so if you see the teams that do really well, they really focus on getting, it's the meme 100 true fans that are into Discord, like Monad, Barachain, even Movement started like that. And those are teams that everyone is oh yeah, you got to do what they did. If I had a nickel for every time, I'm sure some founders in here, if I had a nickel for every time our investors were do what Monad is doing. Look at their marketing team. Go look at their old tweets. That's what you got to do.
Hyperliquid,
yeah, and it's you can't do that because you're copying what they did, not kind of why they did it or how they got to that being the best step. And so when we see teams that do really well, TGE, they put in the hard work and the slog to build those true fans and those loyal fans. And think critically, sometimes people aren't there for the vibes, and the vibes are immaculate. Sometimes people are there for the product, and the product is really good. Pixels, great product, game. Monad, great vibes, and now the tech is out. And the teams that do the worst are the ones that kind of copy and paste. I'm going to look at what they did with the community. They hired this guy to manage their Discord. We're going to hire that guy to manage our Discord. They hired these KOLs. We're going to hire those KOLs. Yeah. And then people leave. I mean, there's a company and it does something similar to what we do. And I look at their Discord. They announced a token, and it was full of when token, and everyone seemed very supportive. That even our investors were they announced a token. Why aren't you guys announcing a token? Look at how much attention they're getting. They launched a token, and it went like this because people were only there because they thought there was going to be a token. And if you thought critically about it, you're there's not really any other reason for them to be there. The token doesn't really seem like it really does much. The product doesn't really that viral. Doesn't really have network effects. And so you end up getting this noise, and if you mistake the noise for the signal, you'll get caught flat-footed when everyone leaves and they don't stick around, and your token goes to zero because no one's holding it.
There is a very good example of that. But with a strong product, so the company is still alive and they're amazing researcher, which is ENS, right?
Yeah.
ENS.
I think you gotta have something. You know, either the product or the vibes or the events or the community. Barachain had the I don't know even what to call it. That was a vibe based
Yeah.
for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they do have like this specific vibe, like you can't find in like any other company. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, like because sometimes the company is just launching the token is like winding down. So yeah, I will. Yeah, I think we have to clear the floor for the next panelist. So it was very nice speaking with you. If you want to do like a 30-second closing. To speak about like everything you want, right? It's like maybe conclusion or like another key take like for next panel, or maybe, right? So you can.
Yeah, maybe I'll talk really quickly about the next few years, next 5-10 years. I'm generally pretty excited for crypto right now. I think this is the year where crypto goes mainstream in a lot of ways. Like we have, for example, stable coins. Like I think Stripe just acquired a company for $1 billion, which is huge. But Stripe did it for a very good reason, which is they're seeing companies like Uber, for example, use stablecoins without even knowing that they're using stablecoins. To them, their money is just going faster, right? We see chains, committing to growing their network capacity by 10x, which means prices are going to come down by 90% this year or more, which is long-term good because we have more builders, it's cheaper, right? And then now we see all the stuff about agents, which I'll leave to another panel maybe. But yeah, I'm generally pretty bullish because I think crypto is kind of finding its product market fit, which may not be the product market fit that any of us thought it would be maybe 5 years ago. But I think this is the year that we start reaching mass adoption, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, my biggest advice to teams is like just always try to think from the ground up of like each of those different components, the community, the product, the viral loops. Don't try to just copy and paste KOL, Discord strategies, marketing, and tech, because I think it's becoming increasingly noisy and there's a bajillion indexes and different chains and, everything looks the same. And what I tell a lot of founders, like, your competition is not other people that are doing similar things to you. Your competition is anything that is competing for the attention of the people that you're trying to target. And it might be similar dApps, it might be different dApps, it might be different chains, it might be Solana. But yeah, if anyone here is launching a token, we obviously do the vesting, the airdrops, the claim portals and stuff, but like a lot of what we do is also just like introducing teams to the right people of like, hey, let's help find you the right tokenomics person, the right market maker, introduce you to exchanges, etc. That's what we like to do, is just like make sure teams are connected to the right people and like trusted partners that are gonna not max extract.
Yeah, I think Flare is going to have quite an exciting 2025. Got a bunch of product launches coming up. We're also very focused on trusted execution environments. We didn't talk about it over here, but I think it's a very interesting primitive that has recently, become more and more popular, like with the launch of Unichain and so on. So we're heavily looking into that. We're also having a hackathon sponsored by Google Cloud, which will be in Berkeley, March 7th to 9th. So if anyone is interested in building, verifiable AI agents, you can check out hackathon.flare.network, get some more information, and if you see anything that excites you, feel free to register.
Thanks a lot. So Dinesh, Bruno, and Kevin. Yeah. So yeah, and see you. You can give them a round of applause, please. Yeah, for this amazing panelists. Thank you.